Hello, everyone. So I'm here today to talk about some trends that we're seeing in mobile. Highwire has a couple mobile publishing programs, and we've built up over the last couple of years some great data that I'd like to share with you today that will help you understand what's going on inside our landscape and help you make better decisions in this space. So first, I'd like to start by saying it was several years ago that what we saw a trend as the explosion of mobile devices hit the market, that people were accessing the journal sites, the traditional sites, with these mobile devices, and that this usage started to increase along with the explosion of devices. But that at a certain point, that started to teeter off and then actually approach zero. And it really caused us to, unfortunately, in a very reactionary way, to do something about it. So what's going on in the mobile landscape is here in the United Kingdom is that we see that we've seen actually for the last 4 or 5 years mobile usage as a percentage of total online usage has been increasing about 2x every year. For the last 4 or 5 years, and here in the UK it's at about a little over 13%, and in the United States it's a little over 10%. And so this usage has been doubling year over year pretty steadily, and it's actually showing no signs of slowing down. And so it's just abundantly clear that the impact of mobile is very significant, and it's growing very rapidly. So when it comes to smartphones, tablets, e-readers, we've got some decisions to make about how to integrate into these different devices. And with smartphones, as you probably heard many reports about, obviously Google and Android Google and Apple are the premier players in this game. BlackBerry's kind of teetered off, and Windows is still trying to figure out what they want to do. These integrating into the market share for Google and Apple in the smartphone market is actually Android is actually dominating the market there. But for the tablet market, iOS is still very much the king and the major player in this game. iPad actually represents about 85% market share in the tablet market, and the tablet is really kind of emerging as the premier consumption device. As for e-readers, we've got a large set of e-readers, and e-readers are kind of evolving. They're really changing, and a lot of them are the more recent versions of the e-readers are integrating with app stores. They've got mobile websites or mobile web browsers. And so they're really starting to look a lot more like tablets. So when it comes to e-readers, I would caution you to take a step back, see how this market kind of plays out and takes shape. But as for smartphones and tablets, it is abundantly clear that we have to be in this market and be represented well. So coming back to the user studies, we talked to some users, and we found that readers like to interact with the website and read the PDF. So this is about two years ago when we talked to these users, and PDF throughout our history has been so important. And but what I will show you is actually what some of the trends are showing more recently. So Highwire's strategy in going mobile was kind of two-pronged. First, we developed mobile optimized websites as a way to optimize the journal for the smaller screen devices, but to really cover a range of devices. So it's more of our breadth approach, whereas we developed native apps as more of a depth approach, just for the iOS platform this far, and to really provide a better experience. So this has been our strategy as we've moved forward. Let me see if I can sync back up here. There we go. Okay, so I did some previous case studies. I talked at SSP and at higher conferences. I just wanted to share a few little tidbits here because there's some great information here, and it's a little bit different than what I'm going to be talking about in a moment. So this information comes from a good 12 months of data across a large set of publishers that are inside and outside of STM that are that have high traffic, low traffic, small, medium, large publishers, and this is really like a snapshot of an aggregate study over a year's worth of data. And basically, what we've seen is that a lot of the users are coming in to the site via search. They're getting right to content, but they are consuming the content on the mobile websites. And that the homepage views actually from a study that I did a year previous to this has actually increased. So the users are coming back, and they're coming directly to the website rather than the traditional search methods. I think that it's important to look at the operating system visits because, despite what you hear about what's going on outside of our market, iOS is actually still very much the dominant factor here. What you see on the pie chart is that iOS represents about 70% of our market. But one thing to keep in mind here is that when we first set out with our mobile websites, and even to this day, we have not pushed the tablet iOS users to the mobile websites, whereas in Android we do. So if you look at operating system overall, if you consider the potential of the tablet, it's even more significant than what this shows. So it's just important to keep in mind what you hear, what's going on outside of our market is important. It's important to see to understand what's going on and hear about this stuff, but it's even more so important to understand what's going on inside of our market, and inside iOS is king. This slide was from a previous study as well, and this just shows that what I really wanted to point out was that the content consumption on the sites has been increasing, and it's at the point where it's almost approaching that of the traditional site. So people love their mobile devices, and they're using them, and they're doing all sorts of great things with them. And we'll take a little deeper look in now with the usage trends. So the scope of this study was actually with across 5 publishers, 1 large publisher, and the rest were kind of small to medium, but mostly on the small side. So I think a lot of you guys can relate to this. It is an aggregate study over 12 months, and as you know, we have a lot of ebbs and flows throughout the year of accesses and article views. So I definitely felt that 12 months was necessary to provide a good sample size. So let's jump in. I'm a little behind here, so I'm going to kind of go through these very quickly. So again, this is mobile websites, and what we've seen for visits is that over the last year, we've seen a very nice upward trend. That people are visiting these sites at an increasing rate, and this is kind of flowing along nicely with the device adoption that's going on in the market. The average time on the site, there's a slight upward trend here. It's kind of hard to see. It looks like it's kind of leveling off around 60 seconds, and this actually is very similar to the study I did previously that showed that the average time on site as a whole was around 1 minute. Just like with visits, we expect the page views to kind of flow along with it, and it does. These are the trends are definitely going up. And I think this one's really important because it tells us a little bit about people that are finding the sites and then coming back. Google is qualifying, has their own qualifications for what a return visitor is, but it's nice to know that people are after they find the site, that they're coming back on their own. And then the next 2 slides cover about how they come, how the trends of how users are getting to the sites. And search is still very much dominant, but the trend is definitely going upward. And But direct visits is something that I think, again, is very important for our industry to understand that people, after they find the mobile websites, are having a good experience and they're coming back directly. So I kind of covered some of the analysis as I went along there. So now I'm going to go into the mobile app study and look at the trends there. This was across 4 apps and 10 publications, and there was one larger size publisher in this, and then the other 3 were our small publishers. So we do have some smaller publishers that are engaging with apps, and so let's take a look at how things are going. This is active users, and we use a Flurry analytics system in our applications to glean this information. And Flurry is actually very stringent on what they qualify as an active user. It's someone that visits once a week. And I think this is really important because we've got on a generally smaller publishers publish once a month, and the fact that you have people coming back and staying active on a week-to-week basis shows a really strong engagement with mobile applications. So this is on a tablet, and we see a slightly smaller upward trend on the smartphone. And then I'm going to jump over the sessions. That kind of dovetails with active users. But we are, over the course of a year, we are seeing a small upward trend in sessions. The median time. Just as we would expect, the tablet is a more premier consumption device, and we're seeing around 90 seconds worth of usage as a median there across this study. And on the smartphone, it's sitting a little over a minute. And that's actually, but it's a little. If you see, it's trending upward, and it's a little bit stronger than the mobile websites. So I think that was telling us that, relatively speaking, people are engaging a little bit more with mobile applications. So when we look at articles read, there's definitely an upward trend here, and we do expect that with the tablet, that users are going to spend a little bit more time reading, and they absolutely do. However, with the smartphone, what we're finding is that people are not reading in this environment, and as you can imagine, it's not as much of a comfortable reading environment. But it still does have its place, and I'll get to that in a moment. As for PDFs, from all our history and studies and things that we've done, PDFs are actually slightly more lately trending downward. And I have a little bit better stat to show this, but you can see it's even pretty much non-existent on the smartphone. And so what I did here was actually I broke down the trend of PDFs read relative to articles read, because in our mobile application, in order to get to the PDF, you actually have to invoke the article first. So what we're seeing here is that over the last year, in the tablet where people are reading more and engaging more, they're reading the PDF less. And there's also a similar kind of slightly downward trend in the smartphone. And then I want to touch on on article sharing. Right now we offer article sharing via email only, and what we expected from our previous studies was that users would find articles and kind of browse the table of contents, maybe read an abstract, and email articles back to themselves. And then in the iPad, actually, for more of the last 9 months or so, we're seeing much more of a downward trend here. However, in the smartphone, we're seeing it tick upwards. So as I think we start to look at these trends, what we can see is the way that people are using smartphones, the way that people are using tablets, and really begin to evolve and diversify these offerings to focus more on what the users are trying to do in each of these environments. So with that said, I think that's what our next challenge is how do we create this end-to-end experience? How do we integrate all of the content and services across all of these devices and really create these end-to-end workflows so you can discover articles on a smartphone, read them on your tablet, and then maybe do other things later when you get back to your desktop. And that's the where I think things are moving. We also need to find new ways to present and organize content and integrate it into and around the articles. I think we've got what we see outside of the market is that a lot of people are engaging with rich media, and I think that there's a lot of value there that we can incorporate in getting into rich media, incorporating them as inline media, and keeping those users engaged. Because unfortunately, these apps, although they can invoke the web, there's some issues with that with Apple, and what we don't want to do is have the apps become a silo for content. So integrating all of this content and rich media in there is important. So I think my final slide here, just a few key takeaways. Invest in mobile. If you haven't invested now or if yet, then you need to make an investment. And the first investment you should make is in mobile optimized websites, because you can cover the largest range of devices, and web development is a little cheaper or less expensive than app development. And invest in analytics. Get to know your users more. Talk to users, do some surveys, some interviews, but also invest in analytics, because what they may tell you, face to face, it may not even be something that they would want or use themselves. So the analytics can help you get a lot of that data about what they may want that they don't know. And focus on creating good experiences. That's what keeps people engaged with apps and with mobile websites and really with your journal sites as well. Focus on offering the user more tools and creating a better end-to-end experience. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to roll on and just take questions at the end, but I'd like to thank Matt for that. Interesting to get an insight from our industry in particular about how content is being used within the STM community. So thank you for that, Matt.